Hey everybody, so as you probably know, free agency opened in the NHL yesterday, and in this video I want to take a look at the Boston Bruins and the moves that they made and talk about why I think Boston is one of the biggest winners of free agency in 2021 and why I think they absolutely nailed it with what they were able to pull off yesterday and some of their moves beforehand. So before we get into it, I just ask that you please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. It really helps the channel an absolute ton and is very, very much appreciated. But let's get into it here. Keep in mind that before free agency actually hit, Boston brought back Taylor Hall and Mike+Julie, both who were very, very good for them after the trade deadline last year when they came to the Bruins. And Boston was able to retain both of them on pretty good contracts. And that kind of prefaced what they were able to do yesterday. Then yesterday they go out and they add even more to their lineup, specifically filling holes in their lineup and roles that they needed to fill. And that's one of the biggest things for me that makes Boston such winners in the free agency is that they identified specific areas that they needed to improve and then went out and got players that specifically improve those areas. And I just absolutely love what the Bruins did yesterday. I think they are gearing up to be a full-on cup contender this coming season. And looking ahead, this might be their last year to really do it with this group because they don't have a lot coming off of the books. Charlie McAvoy is going to be getting a huge raise in his next contract, and they're going to be very, very tight on cap space for 2022-23. So if they're going to do it, their year to go all in and do it is this coming year, and it definitely looks like they're trying. So let's start here with some of the forwards that they brought in here. Eric Howler, really, really solid addition here. A 30-year-old center / left wing who can play, both positions. Versatile player. They give him a 2-year deal at $2.375 million per season. That is a fantastic contract for Eric Howler. And when you look at what other guys were going for, I mean, Sean Kuraly, who was leaving Boston, had 9 points last season and got $2.5 million per year from the Columbus Blue Jackets on a 4-year deal. Eric Howler, who's going to be a probably third-line center this year for the Bruins, makes less than Sean Kuraly now, and he had 21 points last season, more than double what Sean Kuraly had. So in 2021, he spent with the Nashville Predators. He played 51 games, scoring 9 goals, 12 assists for 21 points and a +4 rating. Over the course of his career, he's played 456 games, scoring 94 goals, 102 assists for 196 points and a +23. Boston needed to revamp their third and fourth lines. Their third line in particular was borderline useless for them last season. They needed to revamp their third and fourth lines. They needed some depth scoring. Eric Howler, to start things off, is a tremendous addition for the third line for the Boston Bruins. And this contract is very, very good. $2.375 million for Howler is a very good cap hit, a very team-friendly cap hit for a guy that is probably going to give you 35 to 40 points next season. If Howler can give you 35 to 40 points, that is an absolute win for the Boston Bruins, and I love this deal. This was something that Boston needed, somebody who can provide some sort of offense from the third line. Howler can do that. But they were far from done. We're just getting started. Next, they brought in Tomas Nosik from the Vegas Golden Knights. And this, to me, is Sean Kuraly's direct replacement. Nosik is 28 years old. He, like Howler, can play center or wing. He's a left shot, generally plays left wing when he does play the wing. They sign him to a 2-year deal at $1.75 million per season. He is going to replace Sean Kuraly on the fourth line. Like I said, Sean Kuraly got $2.5 million from the Columbus Blue Jackets per season. They get Howler at a Nosik at a fraction of that at $1.75 million. And Nosik had twice as many points last season as Kuraly did. He had 18 points with Vegas in 38 games. He had 8 goals and 10 assists and a +7 rating. A better offensive player than what Boston lost in Sean Kuraly, and a cheaper contract. This is another big win and a absolute upgrade to the 4th line for the Boston Bruins with Tomas Nosik. Another guy, you know, pretty good numbers in his career. Good 4th line guy who can add some offense from a depth position like that. Played 257 games, has 32 goals and 34 assists for 66 career points, a -2 rating. But for a 4th liner, this is exactly the kind of scorer on the 4th line that Boston needed to try and get some more depth scoring out of this team. Obviously, we know that the top line is going to produce. We know that, you know, getting Taylor Hall and Craig Smith on the 2nd line, and you know, whatever they do down the middle there, whether they leave it for Charlie Coyle or whether they do eventually bring David Krejci back, we know that their top 6 is going to score, but the 3rd and 4th lines for Boston last year did not score nearly enough. And they've gone out and they've added guys that are going to improve the offense from their bottom 6. Tomas Nosik is one of those guys. Another one of those guys, this was a really, really good move in my opinion. Nick Foligno coming in from the Toronto Maple Leafs at the end of last year, Columbus for years before that. He was the captain in Columbus. And now Foligno isn't a huge offensive player and isn't going to be, but he's very, very good defensively. He's physical and fits the Boston Bruins kind of mold of player. He's going to stand up for his teammates. He's going to grind along the wall. He's going to go to the net. He brings a ton of leadership into the locker room as a former captain. He's 33 years old, plays the left wing. He'll probably be the 3rd line left wing, or maybe even the 4th line left wing, depending on what they do with Jake DeBrusk. You know, if they keep DeBrusk, maybe he's the 4th line guy. If they end up trading DeBrusk, maybe he's the 3rd line guy. Doesn't matter. He's a bottom 6 left winger, a 2-year deal at $3.8 million per year, brings a ton of intangibles into the locker room, and is a guy that still can give you, you know, probably 25 points in a year, maybe even 30 if he plays 3rd line. So last season, split between Columbus and Toronto. He played 49 games. He had 7 goals, 13 assists for 20 points and a +2 rating. In his career, he's got a ton of experience, 957 games played, over 200 career goals, 283 career assists, 486 career points. Hopefully, he'll hit 500 career points and 1,000 games played this coming season. This was a really shrewd move by the Boston Bruins, I think. This is a veteran leader who's going to fit Boston's style of game. He's great defensively. He can kill penalties. He brings a lot of intangibles to the table, and is a really good veteran guy for the bottom 6 that I think is going to help this team out a lot. So they've brought in 3 forwards that all, I think, really help out the bottom 6, make the bottom 6 better, and fill depth scoring roles that Boston desperately needed to improve. They also needed a left shot defenseman. That was a big hole on this team, especially you know, with Jeremy Lauzon being taken by Seattle in the expansion draft. So what do? They go out and they bring in Derek Forbort from the Winnipeg Jets. He's a 29-year-old left shot D. They give him a 3-year deal at $3 million per year. He's a classic stay-at-home defensive defenseman. Not going to put up big numbers. Not going to be a flashy player all over the highlight reel. Not going to jump off your TV screen and wow you. But he's going to be a solid defensive defenseman. He's a big guy. He uses his size to his advantage. He can block shots. He can hit. He kills penalties. He is exactly the bottom pair D-man that the Boston Bruins needed on that left side with Lauzon gone. $3 million per year might be a little more than I was hoping for. I would have liked him more somewhere around 2.5, maybe 2.75. But with what defensemen were going for yesterday, this is not a bad deal at all. It's not like they really reached out and paid him 4 or 4.5 or something like that. It's a little more than I would have wanted, but it's not bad. It's acceptable, especially with what the defense market was yesterday. And this fills a direct need that Boston needed to fill, and he really fits what Boston is looking for on their bottom pair. Very, very much so. There really weren't a whole lot of options that actually went to market. Alec Martinez never made it to market. Jake McCabe ended up getting $4 million from Chicago. So, this was a cheaper option. I was originally in on Ryan Suter until I heard that he wanted a 4-year deal, and there was no way in hell I was giving Ryan Suter at 36 years old a 4-year deal. So Derek Forbort was one of the only options left, and Boston went out and did what it took to get him. Last season with Winnipeg, he played all 56 games. He had 2 goals and 10 assists for 12 points and a +1 rating. In his career, he's played 331 games. He has 8 goals and 57 assists for 65 points and a +8 rating. Again, you're not going to get huge offense from him, but that's what they signed Mike Riley for. Like, Boston brought back Mike Riley to be the offensive guy, to be the puck mover, the passer, the breakout guy, the skater. He's the offensive guy. Derek Forbort is the stay-at-home defensive defenseman who is going to lock things down in his own zone and do what Boston needs him to do as a bottom pair guy. And I think he fits extremely well on the left side on that third pair. And this was another win, I think, for the Bruins, directly filling a need that they needed to fill. And then came probably the biggest one, the big one. Linus Ullmark, goaltender coming from the Buffalo Sabres, 27 years old. They give him a 4-year deal at $5 million per season. And oh my God, do I love this. So Boston, obviously, Tuukka Rask, UFA. Jaro Halak, UFA. Halak's already gone. Jeremy Swayman, they cannot rush into a starter role. He only has 10 NHL games under his belt. They needed a goaltender. I was saying this for weeks in advance. I was saying this all day yesterday. Boston needed a goaltender. And I was getting worried as goalies were coming off the board, especially early on. A lot of goalies came off the board within the first 45 minutes to an hour of free agency opening. And I was worried that Boston wasn't going to do anything as far as goaltending goes. But last night, they got it done. One of my favorite free agent goaltenders available, and I'll talk about that and why in a minute. They're able to get Ullmark, 27 years old, and sign him to a 4-year deal at a very reasonable cap hit for a solid starting goaltender at $5 million per year. I absolutely love this deal. This might be my favorite out of all of them that Boston did yesterday. And let me tell you why I love Ullmark so much. Because this guy has put up phenomenal numbers individually on one of the worst teams in the league. He's played his entire career to this point with the Buffalo Sabres. Last season, he started 20 games. He went 9-6-3 with a 2.63 goals against average and a very good .917 save percentage on the Buffalo Sabres, the worst team in the NHL last year. He had a winning record and a .917 save percentage. Think about what he's going to be able to do with a good team in front of him. A legitimate playoff-level contending team in front of him. Or even over his entire career. It's not just last season, but he started 112 games. He's gone 50, 47, and 13 with a 2.78 goals against average and a .912 save percentage. That is with the Buffalo Sabres, who have been horrible the entire time that he's been there. and he has a goals against of 2.78, a winning record somehow, and a .912 career save percentage that has gotten significantly better over the past 2 seasons. Linus Ullmark now, with the Boston Bruins in front of him and not the Buffalo Sabres, I expect to have a goals against below 2.5 next season and a save percentage over .920. His numbers are going to get even better, and he is going to be a legitimate starting goaltender for the Boston Bruins, and a really good starting goaltender for the Boston Bruins. I absolutely love this signing. This probably is my favorite of them all. But I love everything that Boston did yesterday. I think they absolutely nailed it when it comes to free agency. This team specifically attacked their biggest needs. They needed a left shot D-man. Now with Riley back, it was really only needed to be a bottom pair guy, so they go out and they get Derek Forbort, a very solid defensive defenseman for the bottom pair on the left side. Nailed it. They needed to address their depth scoring. That was a huge issue for this team last year. They go out and they get Eric Howler. 21 points last season in a third-line role. If he gives you 35 to 40 points, that's a huge win. Nick Foligno, a great defensive player, brings a ton of intangibles to the lineup. Former captain, great leadership, can still chip in offensively. Going to be a really good addition to the bottom 6. Tomas Nosik, a scoring fourth liner. There's not many scoring fourth liners in the NHL, but this guy had 18 points last season. He is going to significantly improve Boston's scoring ability on their fourth line. I'd rather have him than Sean Kuraly, and they're paying him a fraction of what Kuraly got from Columbus. And then the big one was in goal. Obviously, Linus Ullmark, they needed a goaltender. They could not just rely on Jeremy Swayman, who's still very, very young. They went out and they got Linus Ullmark, who is one of my favorite free agent goaltenders available. He's put up great individual numbers and performed very well on a very bad team in Buffalo. Now he's going to get the best team that he's ever played for in front of him. And I think we're going to see incredibly good numbers from Ullmark in a Bruins uniform. The Boston Bruins, in my opinion, are one of the biggest, if not the biggest winners in free agency. They absolutely nailed it. They attacked almost every need that they needed to attack. And I think they had a phenomenal day yesterday. And I look for them to be a serious contender this season. Like I said earlier, this might be their last year to really go for it. So it looks like they're definitely doing that. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store, donation link, and channel memberships are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.